We all know and value the positive impact of education. If you're a parent, you do your very best to ensure your child receives the education they need to succeed in life. If you're a young person, perhaps considering college or other education, you seek out the best you can so you can advance in your career of choice. But let's not forget the trades. If you wish to advance in your chosen trade, you need education to partner with and enhance any on-the-job experience you may receive. The trades that we're going to focus on are those encompassed by the IICRC, specifically cleaning, restoration, inspection, and all related skill sets. The IICRC is a leader in certification in these industry trades, so you need to become certified in water damage restoration, contact the IICRC. You're interested in furniture cleaning, contact the IICRC. You get the picture. And while most, if not all of you watching today have tapped into the power of an IICRC certification, have you ever wondered about all the working parts that happened before you went to class? Well, today we're going to peer into the minds of three IICRC-approved instructors and see what motivates them, what keeps their energy level up, why they do what they do, and all the details that drive them to be the very best they can and help you become the very best you can be. So sit back and get ready to enjoy this special episode of Unscripted. I welcome three special guests, Sean Biscione, David Hodge, and Bruce Deloach. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
It's good to have you.
Thanks, Jeff. Good to be here.
Yeah. And Dave is looking for his unmute.
I got it.
Perfect.
Thought it wasn't muted.
I want to warn everyone watching this program that these three gentlemen are professional trainers and they know all the jokes. So get ready for that. So I'd like to start with some simple introductions. You know, you all teach classes. A lot of people know who you are, but some may not. So I'm going to start with you, Bruce. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your career path, how you got here, the classes you teach, in just a minute or so.
Yeah. Well, been around the industry for a little bit over 30 years now. Started out as a carpet cleaner who really didn't know what he was doing, got into the industry accidentally. And I took my first class about 3 years in when I was sick and tired of being tired and broke and everything. And so I took an IICRC course. One of my ultimate hero legends, Craig Jasper, taught that course. And it was when I attended his course the first time I knew I wanted to be an IICRC instructor. So this is all Craig's fault. And anyway, took the courses, grew our business, and jumped through all the hoops that I needed to do. And then about 21 years ago, decided to become a full-time trainer, coach, and consultant to the industry. And I've been doing that ever since.
Very good. And Sean, you and I go way back as well.
Well, I was trapped by a family member who wouldn't let me out of the basement for a while. And I was allowed out to get on the truck and go clean carpet during the day. We worked half days, 12, 6 days a week. And really, I was as a slave at that point, working for my uncle where I apprenticed at 18 years old. So just turned 50, so you can do the math and figure out where that brings us for the timeline. I've stuck with it. I was going to college to be a music teacher and decided I'd stick with this diversion, and ended up getting involved with several manufacturers along the route and learning about the products, the equipment, and the intuitive training that kind of came with it. And was able to take my teaching desires a little bit and to curve them towards the technical side of this and teaching the things that I was learning from guys like Bruce mentioned, guys like Craig and Ron Toney and my uncle, who had already been through all the reigns and was a senior flooring inspector, gave me lots of introduction to industry points that just kept my interest. And I was like, wow, I like this hang out with these people. We seem to be a similar sort, and may have been from smelling the chemicals too early. I don't know. But for now, I can say that it's done well. And I work now and have for the last 22, 23 years as a certification instructor for the IICRC. I enjoy being able to share back and give what I've learned and kind of warp speed people through some of their problems, as a consultant for different companies directly, manufacturing of equipment, products, the materials, the solutions. I try to get engaged in all levels of it so I can be part of a solution and not the pollution, as we will, and really enjoy what I get to do working as an instructor for a variety of the different schools out there.
Thank you, Sean. And I assume you're not endorsing smelling the chemicals.
No, certainly not. However,
Okay.
some of them are deodorizers intended to modify and mask your emotions when you smell them. So yeah.
All right.
Works for him.
Yeah. Okay, Bruce. Now hold on. David hasn't been able to introduce himself yet. So, David.
I'm good. Hey guys, thanks for having me, Jeff. And first off, I want to apologize for a little bit of the lag. I just got off a cruise ship and they're remodeling our live stream room, so haven't been able to test my systems yet. But I kind of like Bruce. I've been in this for close to 30 years. I grew up all of my high school days in Dalton, Georgia, and that's what my family did, was install carpet for years and years. So just kind of was natural for me to move into this, but got into this full-time carpet cleaning. And like Bruce, the very first class I took was just a few months in, and it was Joe Dobbins taught my carpet cleaning and odor control class in Atlanta. And I was like, I want to be that guy. So I just spent the next couple of decades, I worked in all sorts of cleaning fields and full service restoration, and then got into the fire service at the same time. So I was a firefighter, EMT, and then on the restoration side, and then got my degree in emergency management, public safety. So I concentrate on the disaster side of things, teaching fire, trauma, water, OSHA classes, and then health and safety tech. So just kind of a little skim bit of my field in this. So roughly 27 to 30 years in this, but I've been an instructor since 2012. So love doing it. Love doing it. Like talking to all the other instructors. It's a fun field. Very fun.
And a cruise.
Yeah.
Did we give him permission to go on a cruise? No.
Who
Yeah.
gave him permission? There's people getting sick, sneezing on you there. What are you doing
I
in that
didn't
place?
ask. I just did it. I
Well,
saw
think
all
some
of
people
I saw all of
probably-
Bruce's posts, so I was like, you know what? Bruce is always on an island somewhere. Every time I turn around, always on an island. I was like, man, that guy, I'm doing it.
He's the most lost adventurer in the world. And I'm sure that's accurate to what you really, but I wanted to give a shout out before we go move on for our starts. Bob Whitcamp Bob Whitcamp was my first instructor. Taught a class here in Colorado for the PCUCA, Professional Cleaners Association, where we used to gather, as cleaners. It was kind of our clubhouse, where these trade associations groups that were somewhat organized by local manufacturer or equipment service centers or whoever. But that was kind of how we started getting together and where we connected for information to learn about each other, to learn about the roots of how you move the wand and which one does which and which one heats the water this way as a carpet cleaning tech that then evolved and kept evolving. I mean, we've been watching this evolution as cleaners that we're developing a restoration industry along with them. And we've been basically a really important, as carpet cleaning in particular, upholstery, fabric care, the furnishings and flooring of the contents of the interior. We've gotten better and better at cleaning and doing managed cleaning is what restoration really is. So David, you're at every bit of it. And, from a restorer standpoint, the obstacles you face as restoration professional instructors are really deep. And I commend for those that can take that on and train those guys for that side of it.
Mhm.
But I
Good
definitely
point. Good point.
focused on textile.
Yeah. Okay, let's do this. I want to talk about the time when all three of you became an instructor. Now, I became one as well. I don't teach as many classes as any of you, but I remember the day when, you are approved and you are back then. I don't know if I think it's still the same. You kind of have to say a few words to everybody about who you are, what you're doing. But that day when you were approved as an instructor, how did you feel then compared to now? How have things changed? Talk about your journey. And Bruce, I'm going to start with you on that.
Well, you've heard the term to choke. I remember my first water class. I literally lost the ability to say anything for a few moments
All right. David, how about you?
And I remember standing up there at the up in Vancouver at the Heathman. Oh, this was back in the days where they would hold those cards up when they were wanting to vote and had to speak in front of everybody. And I had no public speaking experience at all. I was nervous as a cat. But when I took my train the trainer course, my instructor, I don't know, she's probably 5'2", 60 something years old. And the very first thing that she told us when she got in front of us, she said, "Look, you guys are wanting to be trainers. When you get up in front of people, if you can imagine that 75% of those people don't like you, you'll do just fine." Ever since then, that has stuck in my head. As long as they can respect what they're being given, doesn't necessarily matter if they like me from some preconceived notion or whatever. I just want to make sure they're grasping the concept. But the biggest thing I think I've learned being an instructor, I didn't know half of what I thought I knew. Because I'm pretty sure, Bruce and Sean can verify this. You become an instructor, you don't want to be teaching wrong information. So you're constantly always in a overload of research, trying to see, how quick things have changed, making sure that what you're giving them, that's not been contradicted within the past 5-7 years or whatever. So I'm continually researching. And my wife calls me a super nerd. I'll just tell you this real fast. She watches the show Outlander, and she's
my wife too.
Dude, she's become fixated with going to Scotland. So one night, she usually stays up till like 3 a.m. watching TV, and I try to go to sleep. But I pulled up my phone about midnight and was on my phone for probably an hour and a half. And she rolls over. She said, "You looking for vacation spots in Scotland?" And I handed her my phone. It was I was reading OSHA's 1926 laws on asbestos. She was like, "You are the biggest nerd." I can't help it. If a question comes to me and I don't have an answer, I'm going to sit there and study out till I find it. I think that's probably the biggest thing that I've done since I've become an instructor, is constantly reading, trying to make sure, what I'm saying is not incorrect. But it can be difficult in this industry because things change so fast, so fast.
Absolutely.
Hey, David, I think you need to pay attention to Bruce's adventures, because your wife is telling you something by watching Outlander. And I've seen Joanna with Bruce on those adventures, and they've kind of got it figured out how to play off each other. And I've seen the Outlander episode, a few of them. I watched. My wife kind of wanted me to, she watches it too. I'm like, man, I can't be anything like that male actor. I'm sure I understand why you like watching that show.
My wife's like, "A friend request from Bruce Deloach. Just don't accept it. Do not watch his videos. Don't you get no ideas. Leave it alone."
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and those OSHA guidelines, I read them every day just to stay current. Yeah, good stuff.
It's crazy.
No. All right, Sean.
Yeah, I was scared, and I first started. I was actually, I've been a performer since I was 5. I've played a musical instrument and kind of been on a stage or in stadiums presentations. I was doing drum and bugle corps and lots of things where I was out in front of people, and kind of liked it. It was been fun to get so I thought, but when I first got up and started in front of my peers and other people that were doing a business, doing something that I was telling them, it really started to hit home how important it was, not that I enjoy what I'm presenting for their feedback from them, but that they really needed to get some valid information to help their business, their career, and to inspire became part of more of the history there. But as first, I apprenticed under Doyle Bloss as my instructor, kind of liaison, but I had been with many others. And I'd only heard a few instructors, and I heard his perspective. I knew his style, his presentation material. And so I kind of echoed it in and did things. But and try to play. Then I had to create my own style of those things or those positions. And then I learned how much I didn't know. And I started going to other instructors' courses to learn the tidbits of where they were strong. Stain work, chemistry understanding, product application, doing the work in the field, customer service. Everybody had and has so many. And so by going to other instructors as I've become, I think, a more mature instructor, to be able to share those other experiences and really feel and then know my room and the people that are there for what reason, and being better to connect to them and deliver what they really came there for in a live class has helped me in being in the field versus online now, in those dynamics as an instructor today. Doing both makes it, I have to go in the field again to get excited. Sometimes doing the computer too much. I just have to. I've done some classes recently, getting back out there. I took a road trip to Wichita and met and grassroots. I mean, I just drove there purposely to feel the instructor feeling of the road. And then did another one with more conventional flights and things for recently to take on a more box level instruction class. And anyway, just love doing it, and the passion and the excitement that I love bringing and having fun with some, side banter, a dabble of sarcasm, and just some good times to keep people's interest, is where I've really, I think, gotten to enjoying interacting.
Yeah, thank you. So to any of you, not speaking about yourself, but when you think about the perfect instructor, like you've been students too, and you still are. What do you think that looks like? Like, for those who are watching this program, if they're going to choose a class and an instructor, what's the best way to deliver the information? David, maybe you could start if you'd like.
I don't know that there is a perfect instructor.
And Bruce, you be quiet.
I've sat under Barry Costa, Rachel Adams, Joe Dobbins. I've sat under many instructors, all that had different types of quirks and teaching styles that I tried to pick up from. But it's very difficult to, say a perfect instructor, because different students have different retention abilities, different ways that they pick up information. And I think it boils down a lot to the study that you're trying to purvey to students, or that you're trying to convey to students. Is it a hands-on field? Is it something that's more cognitive? And the instructor, I think, has to look at all the components of that specific class to figure out what might be the best way to give this out. One lucky thing, I teach a lot of 5-day combo classes, WRT and ASD. So I've got an opportunity to not only do the cognitive style learning, but also the tactile or kinesthetic learning at the same time. So I'm able to give them both. A lot of instructors may not have that ability because they may not have a drying house or anything like that. So I feel very blessed that I've got that opportunity to deliver on both sides. But to say that there's a perfect student or a perfect instructor, I don't know that I necessarily see that, because there's so many variations of how people learn, and how things are taught. I feel like I do a good job, but there's some people I may not be able to reach, like Bruce or Sean might be able to reach. So I think it's more dependent upon the learner and how they feel.
Sure.
Probably going to have to do a bit of research, instead of just picking a class that's closer to home. Maybe try to, do a little bit of research, ask around for, here's how I learn, who do you all think is a better instructor for this type of thing?
Mm-hmm.
Just my opinion on it.
No, it's good thoughts. Obviously, the word perfect instructor or perfect student aren't literal. It's more
right. I understand.
What are we looking for? But Bruce, what do you think? Anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think I've had instructors that I felt delivered the information very well, but didn't really connect with the students. And then I've had instructors who connected with the students, and even though their command of the information might not have been as technically proficient as some of the others, because of the connection, they were able to figure out what the students needed. They could change their delivery style to match certain types of students. they're looking the students in the eyes and they're trying to judge whether or not they're getting through. Do I need to phrase this a different way? So I think half of it is looking at the silent communication that's coming from the people that you're presenting to. Because they'll tell you things without even saying it. They're either looking away, they're bored, they're fidgeting, or they're leaning forward and they're thinking and they're nodding. And if you're whether you're on Zoom or whether
Bruce, when they're leaning forward like that, Bruce, they're falling asleep on you again, buddy.
Well, but the thing is they'll let you know if you're connecting, and they will let you know if you're not connecting. You can't connect with everybody. So I think if an instructor tries to take that silent communication and then change the delivery style to match what the students need, they can get closer to that holy grail of being a perfect instructor.
And Sean, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I would say a big part of it is the perfect ideal instructor. Their initials have to be BD. It's Bruce. Bruce is who I try to be like. I go to his studio to try to steal studio ideas and cameras that he uses and how he talks to people. I always watch him. I stalk him, actually. I installed some cameras when I was there that he doesn't know about. And he let me in parts of the house that he doesn't realize I shouldn't have been in anyway.
This is a live recording. This is
pretty.
Anyway, no, so truthfully, no, he is an ideal. It's one that connects with not just the mind of the why, but the heart and the passion of the how. You know, if you can connect to the craftsman side of this industry that's doing it not just as a job and a career, you can really help mold their desire and interest. You know, a lot of instructors that were truly passionate on certain parts of this industry are what got me hooked about area rugs and learning about fabric. I mean, it wasn't my desire to learn about jacquard weaves and things, but once I've started learning about the heritage and the anthropological connections of some of these things, even through my college classes, like, wow, now I get why people are so passionate about taking care of a rug versus a carpet versus an old chair versus a microfiber lounger. So I think as an instructor who connects on both the head and the heart to the student, constantly paying attention, you know, like Bruce really hit it. I mean, it is knowing that you are not connecting to those students when they're there, and try to, you know, we get burned out as eventually we get there and we stop losing that inner desire to connect for why we're there. We lose our why. And I think a great instructor constantly is like David. They are studying the why so we can deliver a deeper depth. Even when we don't have to say it, we can just nod about it and we know we've said it. And the confidence that it delivers to that student is like, it's gospel now. So anyway, I think Bruce and David are incredible, interactive, drawing instructors that people want to pay attention to and listen to and just don't want to tell them to shut up. So that's it.
You too, Sean. You too.
Yeah, don't take so. Yeah, you're right there with you, son. I refer you out to a lot of people.
Oh, thank you. That's all.
Where's the check, right? No.
Yeah, seriously.
Okay, let's turn it around. Obviously, we're doing this to kind of connect students out there to instructors, humanize everybody, because that's what it's all about. It's about the personalities, the relationships you can build, the care you show to your students. So you talked about the instructor side. What do you look for in a perfect student? I'm going to start with Bruce on this because he started to go down that path about the student paying attention, leaning forward, not falling asleep, Sean, but paying attention. So Bruce, and then we'll go to David. But Bruce, what do you think? What's your perfect student or ideal student?
You know, I like difficult people, students who challenge me, who question what I'm telling them. So from an instructor's perspective, that can sometimes be off-putting. You think this person is trying to play the game of stump the chump. And as long as it's done respectfully, that you ask questions and you probe and you want to know the why behind the what, those are my favorite students. Now, the perfect student, if I had to say who's going to get the most out of a class, is to be open, to be well-rested, and to be willing to put aside distractions. And then check your ego at the door. It may be that this instructor who you think doesn't have anything to tell you, they might actually have some good ideas. And so just to be open to that and to understand that they're here to serve you, but you have to be willing to let them serve. So, just an open, someone who's willing to engage with the instructor to the degree that is possible for them.
I appreciate that, Bruce. And also you kept a straight face when one of the four of us is, I think he's on the phone and he's got some weird glasses on. So
well, I haven't heard a thing Sean. I haven't heard a thing Sean said since he called himself mature. Yeah. So that was like 5 minutes ago. I haven't seen or heard him since.
David, the ideal student for you, what's it look like?
In short, the one that wants to be there. I don't say we. Sometimes we get students that are only there because it's a requirement of their job. They don't want to be there. They're just being told to be there. But I'll tell you, my perfect student, Noah Wiley. I taught a kid named Noah Wiley 8 years ago, I think it was. This is when I lived in Phoenix at the time. He was there, but his company was not paying for his class. He was having to pay for it himself. He was a hockey player, lived up north, I think Minnesota or something like that. But he's probably about 19 years old. Had a couple hearing aids in. Sat about the fifth row back, and come up and said, "I need to move up closer if you don't mind." I was like, "Sure, move, do whatever you got to do." That kid asked question after question after question after question, and I thought in my mind, I was like, "Man, he's just not getting it. I don't know that I think he's gonna fizzle out." I think he made a 98 on both WRT and ASD. That kid pressed in, he asked questions, he paid attention the entire time, and come back later, took the AMRT class that we had there, and same thing. That one taught me to never judge a book by its cover, because just by looking at him, I thought for certain that he wasn't going to get it. But it's because he pressed in to get the information. If he didn't understand something, he raised his hand. And I always tell students, look, there ain't no stupid questions, there's only stupid people. And since you're in the course, it tells me you're not dumb. So if you got a question, ask your questions. If you're afraid to ask now, come talk to me at break or after class. I don't mind sitting down. It's those that actually want to be there, that want to grow their education. Whether it's them paying for it or the company pay for it, doesn't matter to me. It's them wanting to be there to actually advance their career and not be there just because it's a component of a job.
Yeah.
Well, Sean, what do you think? And I don't know what you were wearing there, but it made you look smart.
It's kind of the interaction, because, when you're getting down deep into things, you got to interact and look at it more closely. And it's what I try to find is a way to interact with them on an unusual, I didn't expect, what was that about kind of hook, so that those that aren't wanting to learn are finding, wow, I was a little more intrigued that way that I thought I was going to be. David said that, I get a lot of restorers in specialty upholstery classes and taking specialized, I want to be better as an area rug cleaner classes. And these guys are jumping in and they don't want to be there. You could tell from the second they got there, I got to do this. I want my master. They are dedicated to getting their master status, but they don't want to put in the hardcore basic curriculum, if you will, and learn that it is so much more than basic. They're good at understanding psychrometry, placing equipment, understanding building science. But when it came down to really knowing what is clean, identifying processes to clean delicate and exotic materials becomes, a different level of understanding of why they're there. And it's at the end of the class when that hard core was broken or that a hard shell was broken, and they come back and say, wow, you kept my attention. I learned something that I didn't expect. Yeah. That student it actually is what I need, is the energy to come back, show, listen, I could cut through and teach you something you may not have been, fully thinking you were going to even need. And that student is my ideal student. They can pay attention. If they're not, I can have a guy swimming off and have an ADD and need me to be his distraction. That's how he learns. But the other ones that come back get a message later, a private text, something, because I gave them my information and I'm fully available past the classroom, before class, after class. I try to connect everyone, not to have them stalking me, but that they know that this class doesn't end here. You might need to know where to reattach to the next level of being a master cleaner or master restorer, or you're really interested in building sciences and fires and you played with matches as a kid like me and you really start lighting things on fire and it gets really, anyway, that's a different reason why I like teaching the other class. But the guy that reattaches, you changed something in my life. You made it, I could do something confidently and solve problems for people and I didn't have to think about it anymore. And it was I passed a test that gave it to me, is that the experience you provided me to learn made a difference. So that's where I enjoy my students.
Good.
Jeff,
Good.
I do need to make a correction. The young man's name was Weiler Yancey, just in case he sees this. I don't know where I got Noah Wiley, but it was Weiler Yancey.
Noah Wiley's an actor, and he was on ER, and I'm thinking...
Yeah. It was the Wiley name, and when I was sitting there, I was like, no, it wasn't. No, it was Weiler.
I thought it was the guy that was on isn't that the actor on Outlander? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I haven't seen Noah
Weiler,
Wiley.
I'm sorry if you're watching this.
I haven't seen Noah Wiley on TV or in the movies lately, so I thought maybe he jumped into this industry. You just never know.
Yeah, I got his autograph.
All good. You corrected it. That's what matters. Let's talk about preparation, because obviously there's days of classroom activity. What goes into preparing? What do you do that your students may never know about that adds value to a class? And David, let's start with you on that.
Oh, wow.
And a cruise in advance doesn't count as prep.
Mentally prepared.
Yeah. Literally, I think it's more me preparing myself for the class than it is anything. So some of this stuff becomes pretty repetitious on some of these. It's the ones that I don't teach as often, like I do a hands-on trauma class and a hands-on fire class, maybe once or twice a year, in which I go pretty extensive with animal blood and brains, which I know the IICRC does not endorse it, but they don't prohibit it either. So I always trying to make changes in every class that we do. I try to figure out, was there something in here that I could have done away with and added something different? So it's those individual smaller classes that are probably the hardest to prepare for. But to be honest with you, even the other ones that we do quite a bit, like the combo class, me and Jeremy, after each class, we make notes, we sit down, and then when it's time to order our new manuals, we'll go through and make adjustments. And we've been tweaking our combo manual for the past 3.5 years. And it's all based upon how we see students react to certain pieces of information in each class, because there's a lot of stuff that you want to cover. But with the CPD being what it is in each of those classes, you're kind of limited on how much additional stuff you can do. So it's not really as much about preparation as much as it is about tweaking, I guess you could say. Because some of this stuff, like I said, it's pretty repetitious day in and day out.
The twerking? I don't know what tweaking.
All right, let's go to Sean, because he wants.
Twerking.
Sean, let's have you go next. And you got a lot of stuff there in your shop.
It's really I've done a lot of dedicated preparation. I built a studio. I've got work areas that, give me the ability to have live demonstrations actively to the student that needs more time or specific phasing, as opposed to just showing a video on a process. I can do it with students live, and I have students come to the class for some hybrid kind of training opportunities for that. So from a studio, Zoom, and I have my home studio standpoint, it's been a lot of investment of the space, the real estate that only gets used maybe a few days a month as I do those broadcast classes. But the preparation levels that David speaks of, the constant flow of information and making the experience on the technical side better, totally validate. And we're always doing that stuff. And it's so important, I think, that for all three of us and all the industry, that we stay relevant and don't leave information that shouldn't be shared. Don't help get what's current, so you don't distract them with fluff or just old information or bad information. It gets in the way of the good information. The go into travel for us, I'm still on the road. I'm seeing how important the look in the eye without a camera between us is, glistening between I and the students to connect, that they understand. And it's not what you think, Bruce. Don't say it's the way I know your mind is going. We are very correct, HR compliant in all the facilities where we teach, and can only be just on the little edge of wrong without getting thrown out. So, but the connection, the time preparation to that facility, the staff that's coming in, if it's in a dedicated facilities like a larger distributor type relation, they have classrooms, but we have to prepare them. We have to get samples in. Their staff has to clean it, organize it. There's so much that goes in past the $375 or $500 for a couple of day or a 3-day class. The travel that we do. We're flying in, we're dealing with all the ugliness of the world of, the travel life. If, Jeff got it right, he got an RV and decided to do those classes when Bishop was retiring. So maybe that's the way to do it. But the hotels, not having a room when we get there to check in a town, and having to clean the carpet just to get a room like I did 2 weeks ago, it was kind of weird. And we definitely, we have a lot of challenges that put in preparing stains, getting sent demonstrations so that they're teachable moments with a lot of pre and post work that goes around it. There's so much, and I think the students, then we try to pack that into an experience that they, an event, a time. We've taken your time, and I want to honor every second I have of it with something that was purposely placed or demonstrated, whether it was the break we gave you, the food we served you, the experience that you got said hello nicely when you walked in the door and offered a cup of coffee. It is an experience of learning, not just that'll surround that. And it takes a lot of work for us, I think, to keep that constant, no matter where it is, whether it's in a warehouse. I taught in a garage or on service shelves the other day, or it's a dedicated classroom or a hotel or our studios. I think that the preparation there it takes is diverse. Bruce is lazy, so he just has cameras and really cool technology around him, and the sweetest location, his wife serving him tea, beer assistant or wine or whatever. I'm just kidding. No, Bruce has the best studio I've been in. I modeled a lot of what I did out of that interacting ability to be able to make big, little, and the experience on that camera big again. I learned from Bruce's huge personality and skill. So let's leave it there.
Bruce, I challenge you to follow that.
Well, I think the biggest thing, because all of my courses are online now, so this is all I do, and my biggest thing is to make sure that my technology is top shelf. For instance, we have so Joanna has a separate dedicated fiber optic line run into her office. I have a separate one to mine, so even if hers goes out, I can keep the meeting going, or vice versa. We have a third individual who's in a different state. She has a separate dedicated line run to her office. And so we have a team of people. And I think the biggest thing is for me to make sure that there's put it this way, when there's a really good experience, the students don't notice the technology. But when the technology is glitchy, or when the meeting stops, or people freeze up and all that kind of stuff, it just throws everything off kilter. Plus, it leaves the students wondering, did you prepare? Are you ready? So I think making sure, like I get on and start the meeting 30 minutes early and make sure all my stuff is working, and do the whole lights, camera, action. We do a sound check with the team. I think for me, because the knowledge is there and it's fluid. We change the way we teach. People like myself, David and Sean, we can deliver the information. The question is, are we delivering it in such a way that the students feel that it's a seamless transmission of information? That's what I shoot for. So we try to make sure that's all set.
Mm-hmm. Bruce, that's so important, because the technology, from the level of different educated or people that can sit in front of the computer to take what you're delivering, is so different. Some of them, it's the first time seeing a clicker or a mouse, or I mean, there really is very novice education level people for digital platforming. We have to be that experience. That I love the fact that you have production and you do that. It's so important for your delivery, and that's awesome. I mean, that you're connecting and realizing how us as students, when you're glitchy, you lose signal. I make an announcement at the beginning of every class. If you can't hear or see what I'm trying to show you as clearly as you hoped, please let me know.
Yeah.
I want to make sure we're connecting in this unconnected world. And that's why I have so many things to draw from to show you or to discuss as actionable items. And that technology one's a big one.
Let's talk
Jeff, I
about.
do want to say as a disclaimer, I said this before we started the interview. That's why I'm over here.
That was.
You're not robot.
you
You're
did.
actually really good, David. I don't see any glitch in you, bro.
Like I said, we're remodeling all this. Jeremy's got his studio over where he does his stuff, but I'm stuck back here in a closet. So
It's okay. It's
Thou
okay.
dost protest too much.
Let's talk about what you all ventured into there. You talked about your studios and virtual learning. IICRC education up until the pandemic was all where?
in
Class.
person.
Yeah.
In person. There was no, almost a moment, it seems, there was a pivot to the Zoom education, the Zoom classes. How is that going compared to live classes? I know, Bruce, you mentioned you only do the virtual classes now. So is there a big difference for you thinking about that change you had to make?
For me, and I think it might have to do with my personality and the way that I deliver information. But for me, Zoom worked out exceptionally well for it. What it basically did for me is it helped me to focus on making sure that I'm delivering and communicating properly, and to learn how to kind of tie into what the students are dealing with and ask questions and draw people out. In a classroom, I was distracted quite often, so I'm trying to walk around and look at what the students are doing, or I'm worried about, is lunch coming in and things like that. Because I'm a people person, I want to make sure everybody's comfortable. Whereas with this, I don't know, it gave me the ability to be able to focus, and then I had to change my delivery because I was doing everything on screen. So, we found some ways to make it a lot more interactive and engaging. So for me, it was actually a plus. Online teaching opened us up to a much wider audience, and it made it a whole lot easier for people to take the course as opposed to, travel. Mm-hmm. So for me, I'm giving it a big thumbs up.
All right. David, how about you?
Oh yeah, I give it a massive thumbs up. A lot of it has to do with just the logistical benefits for companies that may not have the money to send students to an in-person class, because it's not like, schools where they're on, every block in every city. I mean, IICRC schools are kind of sporadic throughout the country. So it costs a lot of companies a pretty penny to send their students quite often to an in-person class. So the benefit for businesses in this industry was dramatic. Now, I don't teach as many live stream classes anymore. I do roughly about 10 to 15 live streams a year, but the rest of my stuff is about, maybe 30, 35 in-person classes. So we do a lot of live stream, but we have other instructors that handle those classes. So for, I'm not, Bruce, Barry Costa, I believe most of his have gone to in person. A lot of those instructors absolutely love it. But then I've heard some instructors that just absolutely do not like it. But I think the biggest benefit is actually to the people that we're trying to help. It doesn't really matter what necessarily we want. It's what best fits the students. A lot, like I said, logistically, it's been a blessing for a lot of companies. So I give kudos to Bruce for being able to switch pretty much over to all of that. Bruce has got a really big name out in the industry. So imagine he's doing pretty well, getting a lot of people to pack in on the screen for him. So.
And he doesn't give them lunch anymore.
Yeah. He throws food at the camera.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the numbers were the big difference. Is first we had a real flux and a flood of students filling classrooms past capacity and allowance for the numbers. They've really balanced out to the point, and I think enough of us are delivering a better quality content now as the education field is evening from instructors a bit better. We're learning from each other. I mean, thank you, Ron Tony, for pioneering like a Zoom class for us to watch a day to see how to transition and produce it yourself, and kind of getting better. And then to expand what, a Teams, a Google meetup, a Zoom. We just say, hey, come to a Zoom meeting anymore. It's slang, So I think that the comfort levels have increased, that we're seeing less people being resistant to it. I know we have a core of students that learn better directly doing and touching and seeing. So I think the owner operator is loving to do it because they're learning and they know that experience is so much better. The big company, like David hit, they want to send their people in. The cost of travel is a big advantage for a Zoom class when you don't even have to pay your student to come into the office necessarily to be able to do that and to be able to get there in person. But I have people waiting for in-person classes in an area. Hey, when are you doing one? I'm going to send to the Zoom class, but I need to come again because I need that more touchy feely, do the experience learning because I'm doing in the field. So the numbers have kind of been pulling from each other. It was impossible to get enough pre-registered students 30 days out. And that's been the big challenge to get these back in person. And most of the large distribution education networks that are out in the US and nationally, I just had a conversation with Scott McFadden in Australia, the same thing, filling the basic core CCT, carpet cleaning technician, and the WRT class are not a challenge, I think, in person, or it's those ancillary, more specialty looking class like upholstery and fabric technician and the unique ones, maybe an odor class, something that's more complementary, but not necessarily a specific thing you do every day. So the switch of attendance to make it cost worthy, because to travel, David has first class tickets. I heard he needs special attributes and amenities in the hotel, massage, all sorts of weird things. I don't even know. Anyway, and then the food bill, I don't even know how they keep up with getting you in there. But think about it. We got to travel.
Look at this.
Yeah. Between our travel and our costs, to do an in-person class is much more expensive for the sponsor and certainly the whole operation, including those that travel to it. But is the experience still valid? Absolutely. And the transition between where our students are going to have options to go to has been pulling from each other. And I finally had a balanced class of almost 18 in-person CCT people in Seattle recently, but I haven't been able to get a California-based course to commit in Anaheim, the Bay Area, looking regionally. And it has to do with the ground distributors and how they sell it as well. But I'll give you that the students' choices are awesome. Thumbs up on both learning platforms. For each one, I think that we just need to know where we learn better and make them offer better and get more consistent out there. And for us instructors that are willing to go back in the field, because some instructors said, you know what, forget. I make great money. I can teach 3 days a month and make more than I did in 2 full booked week classes previously. So the financial side, I'm still passionate enough to push past that I don't care that I don't make as much. I know it's a better opportunity for our industry. And we used to connect, as I'll go back to, my first Pacer class was in a convention with supplier in a small boutique place with other cleaners and names that I could mention that it stayed around from that point. But guys aren't staying around as a career path because they're not connecting to the core like we did in local trade association meetings where we clean Ronald McDonald House and we get together past the education moments. And I think we need to keep those Masonic Lodge level, Elks Lodge level attachments to our industry professionals and our cleaning and restoration and inspection professionals so that we don't lose the core of where we started and can learn from.
Mm-hmm. I want to pivot a little bit to showing personal interest in students. When a student takes a class in the normal school setting, it's for weeks, months, even years. So the instructors get to know the students. You get them for a couple of days. Let's say you've got 30 students. You're going to show personal interest in all of them because that's how they need to be treated. How do you do that? Bruce, what do you think?
Well, again, with the challenge of doing this on screen,
Still have to do it.
yeah, still have to do it. So one of the things that we do, like I said, we've got 3 people, and we ask everyone if they choose to do so to introduce themselves at the beginning. We give them 30 seconds, and actually before we do that, I make it very clear to them, and this is they're usually expecting something. They're expecting you to behave a certain way, and I make it very clear to them. I said, listen, I want you to understand who's in charge here. And of course, they're sitting back waiting for oh, here comes Mr. Pompous. And then I say, you paid us. That means you're in charge. You're the boss. And so if there's anything I can do to make this easier for you or clearer for you or more enjoyable for you, please, you can tell me in a private chat. You can raise your hand and tell me, but I will do what I have to do. So this is the conversation I'm having early on. And then taking an interest in them is we not only get their introductions, but then I take those introductions and I look at them and the things that they say that they do or where they live. And I try to pull that back in and say, I'll mention the person's name and say, you live in such and so and whatever. So interacting with them a little bit more than just saying, okay, students, does anybody have any questions? And then staring at the screen. That's the sort of thing that I think.
How do you deal with distractions? No.
What's that?
Distractions happen.
Yeah,
They do happen.
If it's a one-on-one thing, if you can actually call on a student, mention their name, and then reiterate something that they said early on, it changes the whole dynamic.
Hey, Sean.
I get them to interact with the Zoom meeting, do an avatar, do a personality, chat in the chat room, try to teach them how they can learn through the platform where they're going to be comfortable interacting so they stay engaged and they find different ways, like treat it like a video game, like they're playing, or by bringing constant change on the teaching platform, because some of them are watching it on small devices. We're trying to get them to understand, how we can give them the different experience, to shoot them into different atmospheres so that they can take trips with us where they want to go and really get the carpets clean. They got to use, so we try to keep their interest without it becoming too distracting and get them to interact with it as well, so that their personality can come out in it, and like Bruce, the initial introduction, type it in the chat room if you're not comfortable. I just want to know who you are and why you're here. Because if I know why you're here, I can key in on things that are going to be maybe more problematic for you. And then, hey, I'm teaching an odor class. I want to know the toughest odor or your most problematic one you've dealt with in your business or your life. Whether it's your teenage kid's smelly bedroom or it's the hotel room that you checked in last week. Let's talk about the odor challenges of why that is and what, so you bring a personal problem that they're having and solve it in that interaction. So you just really try to get them to connect with you in any which way you can.
David, I'm sorry you have to go last again.
No, it's all right. I have no problem following up these gentlemen. But now, both of them hit the nail on the head. Usually in my classes, like I said, first morning of the class, I try to manage expectations at the very start and try to gauge the students' personalities, whether it's 25 students or 40 students, which can be difficult. They're going to range from 15 years old up to 65 years old, some with college degrees, some with ninth grade education levels, which is not a problem. You just have to kind of learn the students at the very start. And there's going to be those that are already talkative. I want to try to figure out the ones that are reserved, because I go on the attack for those people, and I'll laugh with them. I'll bring everything I can out of them. And I think I probably spend a quarter of my classes just telling dad jokes and just stupid stuff just to kind of keep them engaged. I generally run class about an hour. 50 minutes to an hour and give everybody an 8-minute break, because your brain can only retain so much information in so much time. So I try to run shorter sessions. We play Kahoot quizzes at the end of each scenario, and I chunk blow pops or starburst at them. I'll throw candy across the room. I'll give them prize packs. Try to find anything outside of education just to keep them engaged. And one of the biggest things I tell them is that I try to teach from a standpoint of how I learned in the fire service, because all of my instructors, they didn't talk at us. They talked to us. I tell them, guys, I'm not like Ben Stein from Ferris Bueller. I'm going to get right in your face like we're at our office having a training scenario as if we were coworkers. So for this week, we're best friends that work together. That's generally how I try to run class, and it's worked well so far. This is just the way that I handle things. But I let them know up front, guys, I'm a moron. You just gonna have to deal with it. I'm a bit unorthodox, but I'm a moron. And 99% of the students are receptive to it. The other 1%, they listen, they pass, but you're not going to please everybody.
Well said. We only have a few minutes left. I do want to talk about a couple more things. One is the future of education. We know the model we have now. All three of you talked about the in-class training, the virtual training. Bruce is solely doing virtual training. But if you were to have a wish list, what would you like to see the future of education look like, to become, to evolve? What would you say that would look like? And Sean, I'm going to start with you just because you'll probably interrupt someone.
Yes, honestly, I think we need to go back to our roots a bit, or we're not connecting to the artistry side of the cleaner. We've got the entrepreneurial side, the business side being really dealt with, but connecting to the why do I clean? Why do I like my job? Why do you like doing carpet cleaning every day after 25 years kind of cleaner? I think we've got to move the needle back to more in-person desirable, and making those events desirable that they show up in person. A bigger difference of where that is a requirement to fulfill before you get your mastery. You can't be a master maybe until you've completed some in-person validating, some things like the IICRC model was trying to put across for assessment of your skills before you can say you've truly mastered them. So I think our industry needs more of that level, higher validation of master and inspector level credentialing as the technician levels grow, and give something to reach for. And then they'll have to travel for that. And it's a reward, but it takes more, kind of like going to college took more, and in our ROTC services. But with that, I think that's where we need to service and move towards, is getting more excitement for coming in the field. Too many guys stand up in front of the room still, reading a PowerPoint, giving a speech, but not even doing a demonstration in a live class. And I think we get lazy without support. So if the people that are around you are selling stuff that we are not, they need to be empowered to make active things do, and in those engagements in those environments, to make the student touch the field. So that's where I need.
All right. David, how about you? Future of education.
I'll be honest with you, I was kind of hoping this question would not come up.
You can skip it.
No, that's all right. That's all right. It's just, I'll try to keep it short, because I could go 2, 3, 4 hours into this thing. But in all actuality, the IICRC, I think a lot of people have a misconception about who they're supposed to be, and look at them a lot like they're a trade association. But they're not. For instance, I don't know if any of you all are outreach trainers for authorized through OSHA, but if you become an authorized outreach trainer for OSHA, you're not directly affiliated with OSHA. You have to get that authorization through a school, like mine's through UCSD. OSHA has absolutely nothing to do with technically us actually doing courses and things. They develop the required curriculum, but you have to be authorized through a training center. The IICRC is not in the cleaning, restoration, and industries. They're in the education field for those industries, and are supposed to be completely separate from schools and instructors. but a lot of people look at them as being, like the standards, standards, which standards are great, don't get me wrong. But when I was on the board and when I was part of the education committee, standards are roughly 5 to 6% of the entire institute's revenue. The majority of that is exams, and then the highest portion of that is renewals. And one thing that I noticed in an institute that's over 50 years old, that's global, every year, it's roughly 40 to 50,000 registered technicians in a global institute that's over half a century. At any given time during the year in the United States alone, there's almost 375 to 400,000 registered HVAC technicians. That's a single trade. So as far as where I want to see education go, I would like to see education go more from the IICRC controlling it instead of outside entities. And what I mean by that, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the IICRC is not doing something bad, but if you look at statistics, every year, at least for the past decade, the number one class taken every year has always been WRT for about the past 10 years at least. You have to combine the next 5 courses to equal WRT, which I think is a travesty, because more people should be taking carpet cleaning, upholstery cleaning, and other courses like that. Because when I teach fire class, I would much rather people have those as prerequisites before they come take a course that's designed to encompass a massive amount of our trades. But people they're not taking classes because in many cases, we're not a regulated industry for the most part, and they're not required. I wish there would be some more thought put into how we adjust the track process for where a student that's coming into this industry should actually start and what they should actually have before they reach certain levels of education, which may come in the future, but I'm gonna keep it at that. So
Well, I can
think this
tell you put a lot of thought into that. Thank you for sharing. Makes sense. Bruce, you get to go last on this point. The future of education, what would you like to see? And delivering food through a Zoom portal probably is not going to happen.
No, I was listening to what David said and what Sean said, and I want to come at this from a little bit different perspective. I think that, and actually Sean touched on, David touched on some of this, but I would like to see courses like WRT divided up. There's a lot, even for it being a 3-day course, there's a lot of things that I feel there should be more time allowed for it. There's a lot of what. So in other words, we say you should do this, you should do that, here's the calculation, here's the formula. But I don't think we're given enough time to cover the why behind everything.
Right.
One little example. So many people, and I ask them this in class, I ask them, raise your hand if you've ever been told to put air movers in a counterclockwise rotation. And a lot of hands go up. And then I say, do you know why? Counterclockwise. And they'll say, oh, the rotation of the earth, and they'll come up with all these different reasons. And it turns out that it just has to do with the configurations of the earlier air movers that we were using, the centrifugal type air movers. And then some smart people, just said, well, maybe it'd be more efficient if we did it this way. But now you have people who are using that same ideology about all air movers, and it's not accurate anymore. So I think a course like WRT, I would like to see it divided. Maybe a science-based version and then an application-based. I know that ASD covers, some of that, but I would like to see the WRT prerequisite to ASD and FSR, fire and smoke restoration course too. Teach a science-based course and then an application-based course so that when a student is told to do something, they understand the why behind the what.
I love that both of you. I mean, make them take an upholstery school before a fire restoration class that you reference. Hey, you better know how to clean upholstery and specialty remove and vacuum properly and carpet and all the furnishings. You don't give those core ones. You're giving them the process one first. I love it. I love what you guys are doing with that. And I think separate advanced classes I wanted to add to that, takeaways, do a basic one. And then for those require retention, we're not seeing the renewals because we're not requiring them to stay engaged after they've completed the master track or after, I don't need it anymore. Why do I need this organization to help tell me or not? What are they going to continue to give me? What's the further add on? What more is coming? And I think advanced courses, more in-depth courses like our rug courses and things like that need more attention can really bring a lot of that depth to a real professional that expands their services.
Well, gentlemen, we're about out of time. I do appreciate everything you've shared. We didn't cover all the questions we wanted to do, but that's life.
I couldn't hear any of the questions. I was watching Sean's computer screen the entire time.
Uh-huh.
I get goofy. It's distracting. I'm sorry.
No, it's
Good,
real.
man.
It's you, Sean. Everyone, I think that's maybe the big takeaway I get whenever I take a class, and I've sat in, I know, Sean, I've taken one from you and David, I think a virtual class once. Bruce, I don't know. I've sat in your presentations. We've done things together. You all have your own unique personality and style, and it works.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
Yep.
Thank you for having us to get together and talk about,
Thanks.
we need more people to feel comfortable to come show up in our classrooms and not think we're teaching Bible verse, or maybe they love Bible verse and we can, but that's only maybe down south. I'm not sure what David's doing where he's at.
Sean, the things you do in class make people uncomfortable. I think it's time someone told you this.
Thank you.
And with that, thank you all.
Jeff, thank you, man. Appreciate you having me.
See you, David. See you, Sean.
See you, Bruce. See you, Sean.